What's going on, everyone? I'm Encore. This is Tomorrow Never Comes, and today's video is all about being careful of where you get your opinions and your perspectives from. What do I mean by that? When you speak to people as you come into crypto, if it's just Bitcoin, if it's ETH, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to hear a lot of opposition or a lot of people who are genuinely confused as to why anyone would want any crypto. Okay, that's fine. For those who are genuinely confused, that's fine. There's always an explanation for it. But then there are people who flat out say, I don't believe in crypto. Okay, and so you got to really take a look at what their perspective is, why they have that perspective, and how have they gained from their current way of thinking that doesn't really allow them to make the shift to go somewhere else. Okay. But I want to dive into a few examples here, and I think it's very important that we see this. So let's get right into it. My favorite, Twitter. It's always got beautiful things in Twitter. So much content. But here's one from Sunny Decree here. And when you look at it, it says the internet is not a good thing. Who said that? Well, it was newspapers that were saying that. Email is not a good thing. Well, that's probably the post office that was really pushing that narrative. Television is not a good idea, was things that the radio stations and those who benefited from the radio station were saying. Streaming is not a good idea. We all know Blockbuster. If you don't know who Blockbuster is, that's for a good reason, because they're no longer around. Okay, so anything that had to do with non-rental format of content, Blockbuster couldn't care less, right? And I believe they had the ability to purchase Netflix as well, and they didn't. They didn't think it was something to even be concerned about. So now we get to Bitcoin, and who's the one or what entity or what industry is really fighting Bitcoin in terms of, well, that's not a viable option going forward for finances? Central banks. Well, why is that? You guys ever wonder? Why are the financial industry pushing so hard against Bitcoin? Let me ask you this. Do you think they care about your finances? And they being central banks. Do you think they actually care if you become financially free? If you didn't say no, then maybe you look at your bank statements or any transactions that you do. The fact that they take fees out of your bank when you have zero transactions, because it's a maintenance fee, tells you something. When you ever need to do anything, they take a transaction fee. The fact that you cannot transact outside of their time constraints, Monday to Friday, possibly half day Saturdays, 9 to 5 for the most part. You can't do anything outside of that. When you want to transfer certain things, you have to wait 5 to 7 business days. Why is that? They only operate within business days. So all of these things are set up for us to be reliant on the banking system. So for us to want an alternative that does not rely on the banking system, well, that would completely take away from their control and their power. Probably not something that anyone would favor, right? They wouldn't favor an alternative that took power away from them and gave it to us directly. Well, who would do that? I mean, you look way back, you look back throughout history. Any segment of the population that had control over the vast majority, did they ever willingly and willfully hand over a piece, even of a small piece of their control, back to the public, back to the masses? Never. Absolutely not. So again, back to these examples, the internet was for the masses. It was information freedom, right? Prior to that, newspapers had direct control over information. We read what they wrote, so they control the narrative. Now we're giving information to the public. They didn't like that. Email is not a good idea. Well, why was the post office saying that? Well, we relied on them to share anything we wanted to send to somebody else. But now you have a format that allows us to communicate directly with each other, lessens their control. They didn't like that. Well, television's not a good idea. Okay, now television is still centralized, of course, but we're taking power away from radio stations when everything was radio based. That's all everyone would do, was be around the radio, listen to their favorite show or their very sports venue. And everything was centered around the radio. It had all the value. Now we take that away to television and it's a problem. Blockbuster and streaming, I've kind of already gone over that. And Blockbuster is one of many that didn't welcome streaming formats to come into play. Look where we are now. You would never think of not streaming. Go out and try and rent a video game. Doesn't make any sense. So one is the control part. Two is lack of vision going forward. They didn't see the technology coming to fruition as it actually did. And so when you become irrelevant from a technological standpoint, there's no place for you. Okay, it's just the speed of technology and innovation. Bitcoin, I mean, that in the innovation, the rate of adoption smashes through any other technology that we've ever adopted, including the internet. And so just be wary of who you're getting advice from. If your friends are in the financial space, whether they be accountants, whether they be bankers, hedge fund manager, venture capital, whatever, if they're tied to the financial markets, okay, stock market, anything like that, their inherent opposition is going to be against Bitcoin. It's just how it is. They've made their bread and butter. Their entire identity and what they've learned has been through a particular system that's favored towards them. And when we remove that, you're going to feel a certain type of way. It's going to make you feel vulnerable and immediately kind of just dismiss Bitcoin as magic money, right? No value, no inherent value. All this narrative that you're going to hear. But just be careful. Just always remember who's giving you this belief or this explanation or this this disbelief in Bitcoin and crypto, and really wonder why they would do that. Is it someone who put in the time, or is it somebody who has just dismissed it outright because their current focus and way of living revolves around the current status and the current way of them having power and authority? So I wanted to share that with you guys. That this was a very interesting and very simple way of looking at narratives and how people portray certain new ideas when they're steeped in the old idea. So hopefully you guys kind of give some thought, and whenever next you have a conversation with anyone, and if you hear certain phrases that outright dismiss Bitcoin, always check of what their history is and maybe what perspective or angle they have. That's it for me, guys, today. Hope you have a great Sunday. Just remember, tomorrow never comes. Take action, invest in yourself today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.